Deep within the genetic makeup of the Kazakh people lies an untold story, one that stretches back thousands of years, shaped by great migrations, powerful empires, and the unforgiving landscapes of Central Asia. Unlike many populations with a singular ancestral root, Kazakh DNA is a living record of history, blending East and West in a way few others can claim. Every cell carries a connection to the past, linking modern Kazakhs to the fierce Scythian horsemen, Turkic nomads, and the unstoppable Mongol warlords who once ruled the world. For centuries, Kazakhstan was not just a homeland but passage, an open highway where civilizations met, fought, and fused. This constant movement didn't just shape culture. It left an indelible mark on Kazakh genes. Studies show a remarkable genetic diversity, with lineages tracing back to East Eurasian hunter-gatherers, Indo-European steppe warriors, and ancient Persian traders. While some regions of the world remain genetically isolated, Kazakhs became the ultimate fusion, a people forged in the heart of history's greatest crossroads. But what makes this even more fascinating is the structured way this diversity has been preserved. Unlike random genetic mixing, Kazakh DNA still reflects the deep-rooted traditions of their tribal system. The Patrilineal clans, passed down through generations, have kept certain Y chromosome haplogroups dominant for centuries. One of the most striking markers found in Kazakhs is the C2, M217 lineage, a genetic fingerprint linked to none other than the Mongol Empire itself. It's a direct tie to the warriors who once conquered half the known world, an unbroken connection between the past and the present. Yet, while the paternal lineages show remarkable continuity, the maternal side tells a different tale, one of diversity, movement, and adaptation. Unlike the strict inheritance of male-dominated tribal lineages, maternal DNA reveals a history of intermarriage, alliances, and cultural exchange. It's the reason why Kazakhs today have one of the most genetically diverse mitochondrial DNA pools, carrying traces from Siberia, Persia, China, and beyond. This extraordinary mixture is why Kazakh DNA stands out in the world of genetics. It's not just a combination of East and West. It's a carefully woven tapestry of history, preserved through generations of movement, conquest, and survival. And as scientists continue to unlock its secrets, one thing becomes clear. Kazakh DNA is more than just ancestry. It's a living testament to the greatest migrations, battles, and civilizations the world has ever known. What if your DNA could tell a story more vivid than any history book? A story of warriors, migrations, and lost civilizations, woven into the very essence of who you are? Kazakh DNA isn't just unique, it's a genetic masterpiece, shaped by centuries of conquest, trade, and survival across the vast Central Asian steppe. Unlike isolated populations that remained untouched by history, Kazakhs carry the imprint of ancient empires, a legacy coded into their very chromosomes. One of the most striking discoveries about Kazakh genetics is the balance of East and West, a fusion rarely seen with such clarity. Unlike most Eurasian populations, which lean heavily toward one genetic origin, Kazakhs stand in perfect contrast. Genome-wide studies reveal a precise blend, approximately 60 to 65% East Eurasian ancestry and 30 to 35% West Eurasian heritage. But these numbers don't tell the full story. This isn't just a mixture, it's a timeline, revealing how different peoples arrived, settled, and integrated into what would become the Kazakh identity. The origins of this blend can be traced back thousands of years. Ancient DNA studies show that early nomadic groups roaming the Kazakh steppe had strikingly diverse genetic roots. The Scythians, one of the earliest dominant cultures of the region, carried genes linking them to both European and Siberian ancestry. Then came the waves of Turkic migrations, bringing East Eurasian influence. The final major shift occurred with the Mongol conquests, introducing another significant genetic wave that still remains one of the most defining features of Kazakh DNA today. But here's where things get even more fascinating. The Kazakh genome doesn't just reflect history, it preserves it. Unlike populations that gradually lost their ancestral markers due to continuous intermixing, Kazakh DNA has retained specific genetic signatures, passed down within structured tribal groups. This isn't random. The strict tribal system, with its deep-rooted traditions of patrilineal inheritance, ensured that certain male lineages remained dominant for centuries. The C2, M217Y chromosome haplogroup, famously linked to Genghis Khan and his descendants, is found in an extraordinary proportion among Kazakh men, particularly those from historically powerful clans. But if the paternal side tells the story of conquest and lineage, the maternal side reveals something just as compelling: adaptation. Unlike the structured Y chromosome inheritance, maternal DNA reflects generations of marriages between different groups, leading to one of the most diverse mitochondrial DNA pools in Eurasia. This explains why Kazakh genetics contain traces not just from the steppe but from Persia, India, and even distant regions of China. It's a record of alliances, diplomacy, and the movement of cultures along the Silk Road. Kazakh DNA is not just a product of history, it is history, preserved in the most intricate detail. Every chromosome, every marker, every variation tells a story of survival, resilience, and transformation. And while historians look to manuscripts and artifacts to understand the past, geneticists now turn to the Kazakh genome, a living, breathing testament to the crossroads of civilizations. Imagine carrying a direct genetic link to one of the most powerful rulers in human history, a legacy not written in books, but embedded in your very cells. For the Kazakh people, this isn't just a possibility, it's a reality. The Mongol Empire didn't just shape history, it reshaped the very DNA of the populations it conquered, and nowhere is this more evident than in Kazakhstan. One of the most astonishing genetic signatures left by the Mongols is found in the Y chromosome lineage C2, M217. This haplogroup, famously associated with Genghis Khan and his descendants, is present at an unusually high frequency among Kazakh men. But this isn't just about one bloodline, it's about an entire social structure. The Mongol expansion didn't simply spread genes randomly, it embedded them in the very foundation of Kazakh tribal society. Historically, Mongol rulers practiced a hierarchical system of inheritance, ensuring that power and genetics were passed down through elite male lines. As Mongol forces integrated with local populations, the dominant clans established themselves, carrying forward their genetic legacy through strict patrilineal descent. Over time, these lineages became the backbone of Kazakh society, with specific tribes tracing their ancestry directly to the Mongol period. But the Mongol genetic imprint wasn't limited to the paternal side. The empire's vast expansion created a genetic melting pot, bringing together East Asian, Siberian, and West Eurasian influences. This left a mark on the broader Kazakh genome, blending populations in a way that still distinguishes Kazakhs from their neighbors. The genetic contributions from the Mongol period are so significant that they remain one of the defining factors in why Kazakh DNA is so unique today. Yet, what makes this legacy even more fascinating is its endurance. While many regions once under Mongol rule saw their genetic landscape change over time due to intermarriage and migration, Kazakh DNA has preserved this inheritance remarkably well. This is largely due to the tribal structure, which reinforced lineage-based identity and minimized genetic dilution. The result? A direct, unbroken genetic connection to one of history's most dominant empires. Kazakh DNA carries the story of Genghis Khan's world-changing empire, not as a relic of the past, but as a living testament to history. The Mongol legacy isn't just in the land, the culture, or the traditions, it's in the blood. Step into the heart of Central Asia, where two worlds collide, not just in culture, language, or history, but in the very DNA of the Kazakh people. The Kazakh genetic identity is not a simple thread, but an intricate tapestry woven from both East Eurasian and West Eurasian ancestries. Unlike any other population, Kazakhs exist at a unique crossroads, carrying the imprints of two vastly different civilizations within their genetic code. For thousands of years, the vast Eurasian steppe served as a bridge between distant worlds. Ancient migrations brought waves of people from both East Asia and Western Eurasia, each leaving behind fragments of their lineage in the genetic structure of modern Kazakhs. This fusion was not the result of a single event but a continuous process, shaped by the movements of nomadic tribes, conquests, and trade along the Silk Road. At a genetic level, this blending is astonishingly balanced. Studies reveal that Kazakh DNA consists of roughly 60 to 65% East Eurasian components and 30 to 35% West Eurasian ancestry. Unlike populations that lean heavily toward one genetic pool, Kazakhs stand as a perfect middle ground, possessing the adaptability and resilience inherited from both lineages. But what does this fusion mean? It's more than just numbers. It's a testament to survival and evolution. The East Eurasian ancestry brings traits adapted to harsh climates, such as increased cold resistance and metabolic efficiency, while the West Eurasian influence contributes to variations in pigmentation, immune response, and even certain aspects of facial structure. This genetic diversity has played a crucial role in shaping the unique physical features of Kazakhs, making them distinct from their neighboring populations. Beyond physical traits, this genetic duality is mirrored in the deep cultural layers of Kazakh identity. The pastoralist traditions, horsemanship, and clan-based social systems reflect the influence of their nomadic East Eurasian ancestors, while the artistic, linguistic, and spiritual elements bear the mark of Western Eurasian exchanges. Unlike many populations that have undergone genetic homogenization over time, Kazakhs have maintained this delicate balance due to their historical isolation and the structured nature of their tribal heritage. This equilibrium makes Kazakh DNA an unparalleled case study of how two ancient worlds can merge, not just in history, but within the very essence of human biology. Kazakhs are not purely East Asian, nor entirely West Eurasian. They are something greater. They are the living embodiment of an ancient fusion, where two civilizations meet and endure in a single people. Beneath the vast Kazakh steppes lies a history not written in books, but etched deep within the very DNA of its people. To truly understand Kazakh ancestry, we must travel back thousands of years, long before the formation of modern nations, when the ancestors of today's Kazakhs roamed the endless grasslands as part of ancient nomadic civilizations. Genetic analysis reveals that the earliest inhabitants of Kazakhstan were predominantly West Eurasian, linked to the early Indo-European cultures of the Bronze Age. The remains of these ancient people, found in burial mounds scattered across the region, show strikingly European-like features. But this was only the beginning of the Kazakh genetic story. By the time of the early Iron Age, a transformative shift occurred, the arrival of East Eurasian groups from the east. These new populations, skilled in horsemanship and warfare, began mixing with the indigenous steppe people, creating the first genetic layer of what would later become the Kazakh identity. As history unfolded, waves of migration continued to shape this genetic landscape. The rise of the Scythians, the Mongol Empire, and later the Turkic Khaganates introduced further East Eurasian components, blending with the remnants of earlier West Eurasian civilizations. By the medieval period, during the era of the Mongol expansion, this mixture intensified, permanently cementing the dual ancestry of Kazakh people. The Mongol invasions didn't just bring political change, they left an enduring mark on the very bloodlines of the region. Yet, despite this complex history of migrations and admixture, the Kazakh genetic structure remains surprisingly cohesive. Unlike many populations that became fragmented due to continuous invasions, Kazakhs have maintained a genetic continuity that connects them to their ancient ancestors. This continuity is reinforced by the traditional Kazakh clan system, which preserved lineage records for generations, ensuring that ancient bloodlines were not lost to time. Today, when scientists analyze Kazakh genomes, they uncover a fascinating genetic bridge, one that links them to both the earliest Indo-European steppe nomads and the powerful Mongolic and Turkic empires of the past. This makes Kazakhs one of the few populations on Earth whose DNA carries a direct, unbroken connection to some of the most influential civilizations in human history. Kazakh DNA is not just a mix of East and West, it is a living archive of ancient migrations, conquests, and survival. It tells a story older than the Kazakh Khanate itself, stretching back to a time when the steppe was ruled by warriors, traders, and nomadic kings. Centuries ago, the world trembled beneath the hooves of Mongol warriors. They reshaped empires, redrew borders, and forever altered the genetic landscape of Central Asia. Among the people most profoundly shaped by this era were the ancestors of modern Kazakhs. But how deep does this Mongol influence run in Kazakh DNA? When Genghis Khan's forces stormed across the Eurasian steppe in the 13th century, they didn't just bring military dominance, they brought genetic imprinting on an unprecedented scale. The Mongol Empire stretched from China to Europe, and its conquests introduced a powerful new lineage into the gene pool of Central Asia. Genetic studies today show that a significant proportion of Kazakh males carry haplogroup C2, M217, a Y chromosome lineage closely associated with Mongolic ancestry. This lineage is thought to trace back directly to Genghis Khan and his descendants, an astonishing example of how one dynasty's expansion left a lasting biological mark. But this legacy wasn't just through conquest. The Mongol administrative system relied on the integration of local populations into their ranks, creating an environment where genetic exchange between Mongolic and Turkic groups flourished. Unlike the complete eradication of cultures seen in some conquests, the Mongols allowed the people of the steppe to retain their nomadic traditions. This resulted in a blending of Mongol and pre-existing Turkic genetic identities, forming the basis of modern Kazakh ancestry. The Mongol Empire also set in motion massive population movements, shifting entire clans across vast distances. Many Kazakh tribes today can trace their lineage back to Mongolic military units that settled in the region after the empire fractured. This explains why Kazakh DNA, while distinct, retains strong genetic ties to the Mongolic world, far more than many neighboring Central Asian populations. Yet, despite this Mongol heritage, the Kazakhs never became fully Mongol in identity. Instead, they absorbed and adapted Mongolic influences into their already complex genetic and cultural framework. The Kazakh language remained Turkic, their customs evolved independently, and their tribal structures persisted. The Mongol conquest did not erase the past. It became another layer in the deep historical imprint of Kazakh ancestry. Today, DNA analysis allows us to see just how profound this Mongol genetic legacy remains. From Y chromosome markers to physical traits that echo the warriors of the past, Kazakh genetics stand as living proof of an empire that once shook the world. For centuries, the legendary Silk Road wasn't just a trade route. It was the lifeline of civilizations, carrying goods, ideas, and people across vast distances. But what if the most enduring legacy of the Silk Road isn't silk or spices, but something far more permanent: DNA? Nowhere is this genetic crossroads more evident than in the Kazakh people. Positioned at the very heart of Eurasia, Kazakhstan was a meeting point for merchants, warriors, and nomads traveling between east and west. Each wave of migration and trade brought not only economic prosperity, but also new genes into the local population. Unlike isolated communities that remained genetically homogeneous, the Kazakh gene pool became a living record of the diverse peoples who traversed these routes. Genetic studies reveal that Kazakh DNA carries the imprint of multiple ancient populations. Traces of Indo-European ancestry link back to early Scythian and Saka tribes who once ruled the Central Asian steppes. Later, Persian and Indian influences left subtle genetic markers, evidence of trade networks stretching as far as South Asia. And as Chinese merchants and diplomats ventured westward, they too left their genetic signatures among the people of the steppe. But trade wasn't the only factor shaping Kazakh DNA. The Silk Road was also a corridor for conquests. Empires like the Kushans, Sogdians, and later the Mongols expanded across these routes, bringing their own populations into the mix. Unlike modern national borders, the Silk Road had no rigid divisions. People intermarried, settled, and integrated into existing communities. Over centuries, this continuous exchange produced a uniquely diverse genetic landscape in Kazakhstan, blending East Eurasian and West Eurasian lineages in proportions rarely seen elsewhere. One of the most fascinating genetic clues from this era comes from the presence of haplogroups associated with both Chinese and Persian populations in modern Kazakhs. This isn't just a random occurrence. It reflects direct contact between these civilizations through centuries of trade and diplomacy. The legacy of the Silk Road isn't just in ancient ruins or historical texts. It's written in the DNA of the Kazakh people themselves. Today, the genetic diversity of Kazakhs stands as a testament to their ancestors' role as the ultimate bridge between worlds. The Silk Road may have faded from maps, but its impact remains alive in every Kazakh genome, a living history of movement, exchange, and adaptation across the greatest trade network the world has ever seen. Few empires in history reshaped the genetic landscape of entire continents like the Mongol Empire. In the 13th century, Genghis Khan and his warriors thundered across Eurasia, leaving an impact that was not only political and cultural but also biological. Today, the Kazakh people carry within them a direct genetic imprint of this vast empire, one that is still visible in their DNA. The Mongol conquests were unlike anything the world had seen before. The sheer scale of their expansion meant that entire populations were displaced, assimilated, or reorganized under Mongol rule. But instead of erasing local identities, the Mongols integrated them, mixing their own lineage with those they conquered. Nowhere is this more evident than in Kazakhstan, where the Mongols didn't just pass through. They became part of the region's genetic and tribal fabric. One of the most telling pieces of evidence comes from the Y chromosome haplogroup C2, M217, a lineage strongly associated with Mongolic populations. This genetic marker is found at high frequencies in Kazakh men, particularly among those descended from historically influential clans. Unlike other conquerors who ruled from afar, the Mongols and their descendants settled within the steppe, taking local wives and establishing new generations of mixed heritage descendants. But Mongol influence didn't just shape paternal lineages. The Kazakh maternal gene pool also reflects interactions with Mongolic women, particularly from aristocratic families who intermarried with local rulers. This dual heritage reinforces the idea that Mongol expansion wasn't just about military domination, it was about forging new societies. The Mongols may have ruled with force, but they sustained their empire through integration, leaving a deep genetic and cultural footprint in the Kazakh people. Even the structure of modern Kazakh clans carries echoes of the Mongol era. Many noble lineages trace their ancestry directly to figures within the Mongol Empire, preserving their prestige and status across centuries. These lineages didn't just survive, they thrived, shaping the leadership and social hierarchy of Kazakh society well into the modern era. Today, every Kazakh carries within them a fragment of the Mongol Empire's legacy. This is not just a historical fact, it's a genetic reality, written into their very being. The Mongols may have vanished as a ruling force, but their bloodline continues, passed down through generations, ensuring that their empire lives on in the people of the steppe. Long before the Mongols, or the Turkic tribes, the lands of modern Kazakhstan were home to an ancient population with striking European features. Thousands of years ago, steppe nomads, closely linked to Indo-Iranian and early European cultures, left an indelible mark on the genetic fabric of the Kazakh people. Their legacy is still visible today, hidden within the DNA of modern Kazakhs, connecting them to a lineage that stretches back to the dawn of civilization. Archaeological and genetic evidence tells a fascinating story. The earliest inhabitants of Kazakhstan, dating back to the Bronze Age, belonged to groups like the Andronovo and Afanasevo cultures, peoples who were genetically similar to ancient Europeans. These were the same steppe nomads who spread Indo-European languages, domesticated horses, and pioneered the chariot. Their influence wasn't just cultural, it was deeply biological. Ancient burial sites in Kazakhstan reveal skeletal remains with distinctly European cranial features, suggesting a dominant West Eurasian genetic presence before later waves of migration reshaped the region. But the Indo-Iranian connection runs even deeper. By the time of the early Iron Age, these groups evolved into the Scythians and Saka, powerful nomadic warriors who roamed the Eurasian steppes. Genetic analyses show that they, too, had a significant West Eurasian component, with some individuals even possessing red or light-colored hair, traits that are still occasionally seen in Kazakh populations today. These nomads left more than just their genes. They left behind a warrior culture, a deep equestrian tradition, and a spiritual legacy that still echoes in Kazakh folklore. Yet, the story of Kazakh genetics is one of fusion, not replacement. Over centuries, these early Indo-European and Indo-Iranian groups encountered East Eurasian populations, leading to the unique blend seen in Kazakhs today. But traces of their European and Iranian ancestry remain, particularly in mitochondrial DNA, suggesting that women from these groups played a significant role in the genetic landscape of the region. Even Kazakh oral traditions remember figures like Tamaris, the warrior queen of the Masashte, a people thought to be linked to these ancient steppe cultures. The diversity of Kazakh DNA is a living testament to these ancient interactions. It tells a story of migrations, conquests, and cultural exchanges that shaped an entire people. While the Kazakh identity today is firmly Central Asian, Their genes carry whispers of a time when the vast Eurasian steppe was ruled by the ancestors of Indo-European and Indo-Iranian civilizations. This deep heritage is a reminder that history is not just written in books. It is encoded in the very essence of who we are. The study of Kazakh genetics isn't just about uncovering the past. It's about shaping the future. As genomic technology advances, Kazakhstan stands at the frontier of groundbreaking discoveries that could redefine our understanding of human migration, adaptation, and even modern medicine. But what does this mean for the Kazakh people and the world? In recent years, whole genome sequencing has opened up new possibilities for tracing ancestral links and understanding inherited health risks. With Kazakhs carrying a complex blend of East and West Eurasian genes, their DNA offers a unique case study in genetic diversity. Scientists are now using this data to explore how centuries of adaptation to harsh steppe environments have influenced traits such as metabolism, immune response, and disease resistance. These insights could have major implications for personalized medicine, helping to develop treatments tailored to the specific genetic profiles of Kazakh individuals. Beyond medicine, Kazakh genetics also hold the key to solving unanswered questions in anthropology and history. The region has long been a crossroads of civilizations, and its people's DNA reflects the echoes of ancient migrations that shaped the entire Eurasian continent. As more Kazakh genomes are sequenced, researchers are discovering unexpected connections, links between the nomads of the steppe and distant populations from the Middle East, South Asia, and even Europe. This growing body of knowledge is challenging outdated theories about how human populations moved and mixed across history. But perhaps the most exciting frontier lies in ancestry research. With the rise of genetic testing services, more Kazakhs are beginning to explore their roots at an unprecedented level of detail. Unlike written records, which can be lost or rewritten, DNA preserves the truth of one's lineage. It can trace connections between modern Kazakh clans, verify oral histories, and even link individuals to ancient populations whose stories were thought to be lost to time. Kazakhstan is now taking steps to establish its own national genomic databases, ensuring that genetic research benefits its people directly. These efforts will not only preserve Kazakh heritage, but also contribute to global genomic studies, making Kazakhs one of the most well-documented ethnic groups in Central Asia. In an age where DNA is unlocking the deepest secrets of our origins, Kazakh genetics provide a window into the shared history of humanity itself. The future of Kazakh genetic research is just beginning, and its potential is limitless. Every new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of human history, proving that Kazakhstan isn't just the heart of Eurasia. It's also a crucial piece of the world's genetic story.